Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's BusinessNow session. My name is Lucy, and I will be the moderator for this interview meeting. Okay, so first, this is my honor to do a brief introduction of today's guest speaker, Mr. Zhang Tao, who is the co-founder of Dao Foods International, which is a cross-border impact venture established to invest in eco-friendly, plant-based, and clean meat in China. He is also the founder and managing director of Dao Foods, a cross-border impact investment advisory and accelerator group with co-headquartered offices in both China and the US. Mr. John, do you have anything about yourself that you want to add on to my introduction?
No, it's a good introduction. Thanks for that.
Awesome. Let's start with your early experience as a college student that you have been in a Chinese university and then Wake Forest and then Harvard. What were you interested in when you first entered college, and how did it shift until you finished your MPA degree at Harvard?
Yeah, when I was at college, so I went to Beijing Foreign Studies University. So I was really actually interested in international relations, policy aspects of things. So that's why upon graduation, I chose to become a journalist, working for Xinhua News Agency. So I worked for Xinhua News Agency as a journalist and also policy analyst for quite a few years. I even got a stint as overseas correspondent in Brussels for 2 years. When I was in Brussels, I mainly covered like European Union related business affairs. So I interviewed quite some multinational companies and also technology companies at a time. So I got interested in the business side of things. That's why I decided at that time to go to the US for further study. So that's how I ended up at Wake Forest University. I got a scholarship from its business school. So that's how I got into the business side of things. So after Wake Forest, I started to work for a number of startups and also multinational companies on the technology side. And at that time, actually, I did not hear about impact investing at all. But I was always thinking about how to combine my policy side of background with my business side of the equation. After I founded an investment firm with a number of after I served quite a number of international companies. I decided to strike it out on my own. So I co-founded an investment firm with a couple of friends called AC Bridge Capital Advisors. So we started actually to not only serve technology companies, but also quite a few companies in the clean energy sector. So at that time, I was traveling around China, especially northern China, got to see the different kinds of environmental problems China was confronted with at that time. And especially, I spent a lot of time in Hebei province. That's where I came from. That's my hometown. I was really shocked by the pollution in some of the Chinese. Not only the provincial capital of Hebei province, but also quite a few Hebei cities. So actually, you probably know, if you look at the pollution level, quite PM 2.5. I think the top 10 most polluted cities in China probably has 6 or 7 cities from Hebei province. So I was really shocked. So that's why I was thinking about how I can leverage my experience, my background, my skills to help address this kind of environmental problems in China. I always thought there should be a business approach to solving these problems, but I did not have an answer at that time. So that's why I decided to pursue a mid-career MPA at Harvard Kennedy School. So it is at Harvard Kennedy School where I first came across the concept of impact investing, and I seriously got interested in it. I thought this is the field where I can well combine my policy background and also my business skills and experience. So after, long story short, after Howard Kennedy School, I went to lead an organization called New Ventures Global at Washington, D.C. headquartered World Resources Institute. So World Resources Institute is well-known leading environmental think tank, but Ventures will within housed at WRI is quite different in terms of what it, well, it's not really a think tank, it's more like a do tank kind of unit within WRI. So, and New Venture Global is basically an impact-oriented accelerator that focus on serving environmental scheme size and prices in 6 key emerging markets. China was one of them. So the other emerging markets were India, Indonesia, Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. So, so basically, I was leading New Ventures Global. So we served, within this key emerging markets, we served over a few years, like almost like 1,000 environmental small, medium-sized enterprises. China accounted for quite a lot of them, probably like 1/3 of them. So at the time, was a deep interest in China, my home country. I decided to create like an impact fund, to work together with New Ventures China in order to not only provide acceleration services to this environmental small, medium-sized enterprises and also startup companies, but also impact investment capital. So that's why later, we made a decision to leave WRI to become more independent. The whole New Ventures global organization became independent of WRI, and made a decision to just fully focus on China Impact Fund at the time. So long story short, with China Impact Fund, AC Bridge, Capital Advisor was still running at the time, and also a few other impact-oriented entities, cross-border impact-oriented entities also emerged along the way. So we decided to combine all these impact entities under one holding company called Dao Ventures. So Dao Ventures is more like a consortium that consists of several impact-oriented cross-border entities that try to serve Chinese and also some of the international impact ventures, as we call them, in different capacities. So long story short, that's how we came to establish Dao Ventures to do that, which is 100% impact oriented, but also a business organization. So Dao Foods International was also co-founded by Dao Ventures like 3 years ago. Because 3 years ago, I was having a meeting with my Harvard Kennedy School classmate, Albert Zhang, who was running his own impact investment organization called Monspy Social Ventures. So we got together in DC, and at the time, Albert also introduced me to Bruce Friedrich, who was founder and executive director of a think tank called Good Food Institute. So Good Food Institute, basically their focus is to promote alternative protein products not only in the US, but also globally. At the time, Good Food Institute, we call it GFI, right? It was very small. They only had like 6 or 7 people at that time. But now it had expanded to like a 100 people organization. And at the time, Bruce also a trustee at a specialized venture capital organization called New Crop Capital, which is very much 100% focused on investing in early stage alternative protein ventures. So they invested in like Beyond Meat, Perfect Day, Memphis Meats, quite a few well-known alternative protein venture brands. So far, they have invested in like probably over 40 alternative protein ventures in the US and also internationally, including a Chinese venture called Starfield Science and Technology, food science and technology that we co-invested in together with New Corp Capital. So in March timeframe, this past March. That's yeah. So basically, Dao Foods. The reason why we decided to co-found Dao Foods together with New Corp Capital and together with my co-founder Albert Zhang was mainly because we thought at least at that time. Because although Dao Ventures as a collective entity has served many environmental small medium-sized prices in China, but most of the SMEs were on the industrial side of things. So like waste management, industrial energy, recycling. I think there's very few consumer-oriented small medium-sized enterprises that we work with. So I always thought, because China is the biggest consumer market in the world, it has the biggest population. So I was always thinking about how we can turn Chinese consumers into part of China's environmental solution. So Dao Foods International at the time, to me, was perfect solution to addressing this kind of problem, this kind of challenge. So although at that time it is very well, even at this time the China's alternative protein sector is still like a very nascent stage, but we thought it's high time like 3 years ago that we start doing something about it, and of course initially we spent a year doing feasibility study to explore at Dao Foods International try to explore the viable pathway to doing that, and basically promoting sustainable development of the alternative protein sector and products in China. After 1 year feasibility study, after talking with many stakeholders in this sector, either traditional plant-based food vendors in China, some of the associations, government stakeholders, science and technology parks, and also some of the international companies, we thought that we still should adopt the approach that we are most comfortable with and also very experienced with, impact investing and incubation approach. So that's why we, long story short, we last year we launched actually last year we started to launch a 4-city. We call it China Next Generation Good Food Boot Camps, where we convene not only entrepreneurs in this space, but also investors and big food companies and other interested stakeholders to get together and talk about how to build an ecosystem centering around entrepreneurs, and from there how to work together to promote the sustainable development of alternative protein products in China. So we did 2 boot camps. One in Shanghai. First was in Shanghai. Actually, the second one was in Beijing in December. But because the COVID-19, we initially we thought we're going to do Shenzhen and Chengdu early this year. But because the COVID-19 situation, that has been delayed. But we still going to do the 3rd boot camp actually in Shanghai again this time, like in October, in mid-October. So the date has been set. And we're planning to do the 4th one in Shenzhen. So based on this, the bootcamp work we have been doing, and also based on, we also have been looking at potential investment targets, right? So along with the convening part of the work we have been doing. So that's why we look at a lot of like plant-based meat companies. We made a decision to invest in Starfield together with New Corp Capital, Matrix Partners, and Joy Capital. So in an angel round. So far, Starfield has been doing quite well in terms of valuation. So they are entering A+ round right now. As far as we can tell, is the fastest growing plant-based, next generation plant-based food brand in China right now. So which is good. So and we have confidence that it will continue to grow. and hopefully scale up along the way. So based on our experience with Starfield, because we along the way, we were the first investment organization they approached, they started talking with us. So along the way, we have provided a lot of like so-called unofficial incubation services or advisory services to Starfield. Initially, they thought about doing like a restaurant chain restaurant, food services chain. So we asked them to give up on that and also turn their business model into like a product-oriented, product-focused business model. So they took our advice, and also we helped hook them up with like a manufacturer that they are still working with, because as a startup they do not have the manufacturing capability, and other stakeholders. Even like they also got to know Matrix partners and Joy Capital at Dao Bootcamp, so basically through our introductions. So that's how we have invested in Starfield. So based on that experience, we thought to ourselves, this sector very much, and apparently, all the startup companies, younger generation, they need a lot of handheld kind of help. So we decided to launch Dao Foods Incubator as part of what we do to promote this sector. So we officially launched the Dao Foods Incubator and also Call for Entrepreneurs in April of this year. We made a decision to do this incubator for at least 3 years. 3 years, so every 6 months we're going to select one cohort of companies, 4 to 5 companies, and we planning to do at least 6 cohort, hopefully together 30 China next generation good food companies, as we call them, in order to build like a small army of entrepreneurs that can work with us to help promote alternative protein product in China. So it's different business model with different products in different geographies with different styles. So we have selected the first cohort company already. So we have invested in the first cohort companies. So there will be 4 of them. And so together with Starfield, we have invested in 5 companies in this sector already. So we are planning to invest in more, not only from the incubator, probably also on a standalone basis of some of the alternative protein ventures, either startup company or probably some even bigger ones along the way. Yeah. So yeah. In summary, that's what we have been doing at both Dao Ventures and Dao Foods International. So hopefully it helps the audience and you gain a better understanding of what I have been doing, right, in the impact investing sector.
Absolutely. It is kind of interesting to see how your career path kind of built off on one another and together with your experience, like educational experience. So since you just mentioned the incubator program, what is out of your expectation during since the start of the incubator, and what quality do you look for the most among these startup ventures or these entrepreneurs?
We expect the entrepreneurs to be product focused, I would say. So that's our number one criteria for when we go out there to select the good entrepreneurs, the promising entrepreneurs. So they need to get their product right. So secondly, they need to be business savvy to the extent that they know how to sell and market their products to especially to the younger generation, the millennial kind of mainstream consumers, because we don't want them to sell or focus on selling their products to the traditional vegetarian or vegan kind of consumers. Because by the nature of what we do from an impact perspective, only by successfully selling to and scaling up what they do and their products, their businesses can we achieve the kind of impact we would like to achieve, especially on the environmental front. So that's why we want them to have the capability to outreach to the mainstream consumers, but especially the younger generation consumers who more willing and adopt and try next generation good food products. So certainly, not in any way less importantly is that we expect these entrepreneurs to have a passion for what they do for this sector. So they need to have some kind of driver, beyond themselves, beyond money, to do what they do. So I think that's very important because, although there's a lot of talk, and also media reporting of, so-called, 人造肉, or 植物鸡 in China right now. But that's mainly because, the Beyond Meat success, right? IPO success. So that's kind of the threshold that, as far as we could tell, so that's why we also classify the startup ventures we are working with, we are looking at into, like pre-Beyond Meat IPO companies and post-Beyond Meat IPO companies. So but it doesn't matter. I mean, so in a way, because as long as the entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter whether they started their ventures before the Beyond Meat IPO or after, as long as they can display a passion, for doing this kind of venture, like a longer term, we are much willing to support them. But we're always looking for the so-called DNA or gene, right, from these entrepreneurs. Without those, impact DNA or gene, we just don't think they can persist that long in this sector, because this is not an easy sector at all.
Sure. Thank you. So in terms of plant-based protein industry, like you just mentioned, the past year was kind of like a booming year for the plant-based protein industry in China specifically, because China had been kind of lagged behind in terms of vegetarian or veganism comparing to the US or some the European countries. But after Beyond Meat's high performance of IPO, it is interesting that plenty of plant-based products emerged in the domestic market in China, like KFC, Pizza Hut, and Starbucks, and even convenience stores like Lawson all launched their vegan or vegetarian options almost at the same time.
Yeah.
So what actually happened, and how is it going to continue to transform in the 2020s?
We have I think, although there's a lot of media exposure, coverage of, and also a lot of, kind of product trials in the marketplace, we still think this market is at a very much nascent stage, for the reason that the mainstream consumer awareness of this kind of product category is not totally there. So especially compared with US and European markets, because if you look at the US and European markets, what the number one difference, I think, as far as I can tell, is that a lot of the mainstream consumers in US and Europe have been so-called brainwashed, right? So by like NGOs, international organizations on the environment, in the environment sector or animal welfare sector. So they have been brainwashed. So subconsciously they have developed this consumer awareness of this kind of products. So they were just waiting for the right products to appear on the horizon. Then like products from Beyond Meat, from Impossible, from the different kinds of so many plant-based milk product vendors in the US. So they just can go out, go to the grocery stores and buy the products that to replace, the existing animal products they are using. So, but in China, I think this is very much different. I think China does not have history, right? Does not have this, this kind of education, several decades of education by environmental organizations or not to mention animal welfare organizations. So I think Chinese consumers, when they, I'm not saying that the younger generation, especially the younger generation consumer, they don't pay attention to environmental issue, to animal welfare issue. Some of them, actually more and more younger generation people starting to pay serious attention to these issues. But most of the mainstream consumers in China are still very much, choose their products, right? whatever product they put in the mouth based on taste, first and foremost. And they're very discerning, especially when it comes to meat products. So they are very discerning, very have high standards. So that's why, we always encourage our entrepreneurs to get their product right. So at least, their plant-based meat products or plant-based dairy products need to be at parity with the traditional meat products or dairy products they would like to replace. Another difference that I would much think that contribute to the nascent stage of China's alternative protein sector is that China already has a long history of plant-based food. Although, China's traditional concept of plant-based food is quite different from the kind of plant-based food we are promoting here, especially through the ventures we are supporting. Chinese people, in a way, they're all flexitarian, right? So 有荤有素 when they eat something, when they have their meals. So in their minds, plant-based food is not like tofu-based kind of products, 豆制品, definitely not a new thing. But at the same time, we from our perspective, what we are doing, what we are encouraging the younger generation entrepreneurs to do from product perspective is still very much new, because number one, and these products are called alternative protein products. So they're supposed to replace the existing animal products, in taste, in price, in convenience. And number two, we want to these products to be not only just tasty, cost effective and easy to get, but also we want these products, especially the entrepreneurs, to create some kind of coolness that can be associated with this so-called next generation good food products. So that's something that I think the entrepreneurs need to do in order to highly differentiate the kind of products they're promoting in working together with us. So that's going to take time and also innovation, right? And the entrepreneurs also needs to understand that this is not an easy path or easy sector to take on. So you cannot just ride on the heat, right? So like the popularity of the sector or topic. You have to, entrepreneurs always need to go through ups and downs. So they need to be mentally prepared for that. So that's why, from our perspective, we want to be the companion to these entrepreneurs, especially the right entrepreneurs, along the way, not just, we come in at once and then we disappear. And that's what impact investors do anyway.
Awesome. So plant-based food market is kind of a pretty new subsector of sustainability industry. So just to give a little background about impact investing, how do you define impact investing or sustainable investing? At what stage is it developing in China comparing to the US?
I have been doing impact investing for over 10 years. So impact investing, for me has always, and in terms of how to do impact investing in China, the way how we should do and promote impact investing in China is always evolving, right? On my side as well, because the experience I've been gaining through working on the ground as a practitioner. But I think impact investing as a concept is getting more and more recognition in China nowadays. It's just how to go about it, how to do it, and whether some people have been talking about impact investing as more like a 时髦的概念, right? It's more like a good concept, but in reality, they either don't necessarily have the patience to do it, or don't have the skill sets and experience to do it, or they just, they don't have a genuine passion for doing that. So as far as, I can tell based on my impact investing experience so far. So if you look at the difference between impact investing and traditional financial investing, or venture investing. So basically, you have to, think about, impact investors always, they need to be idealistic. They also need to be pragmatic at the same time. But as idealists, they need to think about what the future should look like, right? What the ideal future should look like. And, for example, for plant-based food, of course, all impact investors in this space, they want everybody to eat plant-based food, right? So, or as much plant-based food as they can. So we have a better environment, we treat the animals better, things like that. So then you, based on the future you have in mind, then you do reverse engineering. So basically then you figure out, what you need to do as, a practitioner, what you need to promote, what you need to invest in, what you need the entrepreneurs to do to scale up their businesses in order to reach that target sooner than later. But if you look at financial investing, I'm not saying, I'm definitely not looking at this from like more high ground or anything, but financial investors, just based on their fiduciary responsibilities, so they just have to think about the future in the sense that how it can help my investors make more money, right? So the more money they can help their LP investors make, and the better. So basically the ventures they're going to support, the business model they're going to support are more business oriented in the sense that how these businesses can make more money, and how they can move forward to become successful IPOs, how they can exit from these companies. Of course, this questions we also need to think about, but I think for impact investing is probably more. There's more dimensions to what we do, and in a way it's more complex in the sense that how we can, on top of the business KPIs, and how we can also achieve the impact of KPIs in order to achieve what we want to achieve eventually.
Okay, so the world is kind of in a pretty weird stage that it is in a transitioning point because of the COVID-19, especially what we care about is that in the following post-pandemic era of the 2020s, in terms of the general sustainability industry, what should we specifically notice or look at as investors?
I think every investor, or every person in this world needs to start to think about how they can contribute to a better world, or try not to make the worsening situation, right, globally, not getting any worse. I think this is any sane person needs to start to seriously think about how we can contribute to make this world a better place, how we can contribute to make sure that we are not going to any end of the tunnel, right? So like catastrophic end, so to speak, for the humankind. I think this is what everybody needs to think about. As investors, I'm hoping that there will be more and more impact investors with different impact angles. For example, what we do, we are looking at this more from environmental and climate change perspective, but there are also other impact angles that that should be adopted by other kind of impact investors, in terms of poverty reduction, in terms of education for underprivileged kids, in terms of elderly care, in terms of even international relations betterment, right? So for example, between US and China, if there's investors who who can figure out approach to bridge these two countries at the private sector level, and by extension contributing to better relations between, or better understanding between the two peoples of these two countries with vastly different political systems and cultures. I think that's also something meaningful to do. So I think everybody should think about something beyond themselves at this juncture, because the world is definitely 2020 has proven to us that there are serious challenges, right? So we need to think about it. We need to resolve. We cannot just think we can go back to normal times and lay back, relax and continue to make money, enjoy a good life, that type of thing. So hopefully, every investor need to have some kind of angle from which they can help make this world a better place. This is not just, I'm not just being idealistic. I'm being, I'm being realistic, right? So if people don't do that, if it's just a bunch of impact investors, trying to make this world a better place, I don't think we have that kind of power, actually.
Definitely. So in terms of domestic impact entrepreneurs, will they face heavier obstacles than those in other maybe developed countries because of China's huge population base? Is it harder to transform their traditional perception? And what is the potential root of those obstacles?
Yeah, I mean, we call them impact entrepreneurs or impact ventures, right? So for these entrepreneurs, it's always, they definitely haven't chosen the path of least resistance, for sure. So because on top of what they need to do, what they need to do on the business front, they also need to think about how they can, through their business approach, to achieve the impact goals that they want to achieve. And by the nature of some of the ventures, because some of the ventures are in the environmental sector, so they're already doing, right? So by nature of what they do, they're already contributing to the environmental side of things. But again, like I said, impact ventures, the kind of impact ventures, impact entrepreneurs we want to support, they need to have a clear understanding of what they want to achieve from impact perspective. That's the kind of entrepreneurs we consider to have impact DNA that can, continue to do what they do longer term and more persistently, and eventually achieve the kind of impact success we would like, and also business success we would like them to achieve, for sure. So it's not definitely not an easy path, but I think in China, in a way, there are also more opportunities because China is a big market, number one, and China has different geographies, different kind of issues that can, as long as you can come up with like an innovative solution, you can help address this kind of issues. Even you think about some of the, like a big name entrepreneurs like Jack Ma, Pony Ma, in a way, through their ventures, they are doing some kind of impact-oriented work. It just, they didn't start out as impact ventures, right? So, but I think with the kind of power they have been accumulating, they're also starting to become more conscious of the different social and environmental problems China is confronted with. So as long as they have this kind of mentality, they can also help contribute to the sustainable development of China from their angles. But at the same time, for what we have been focused on doing from as impact investors, more kind of look out for the from the for the impact entrepreneurs that have the so-called impact DNA from day one. So from day one, these entrepreneurs, they want to leverage a business approach to solving some of the environmental and social problems China has. It's not easy, based on our experience with these entrepreneurs. Our focus is still the environmental sector. It's not easy, even for plant-based, although it's getting quite popular from a media perspective. A lot of investors are paying attention to this sector, but it won't be easy in the sense that there will be, like I said, there will be ups and downs for the entrepreneurs. And they need to get their product right. They need to get their business model right. Especially when they try to scale up what they do, it definitely will be a uphill battle, for sure. If they just want to, have some kind of short-term so-called short-term success, that can be easily done. But for example, they can get media coverage, they can have their product tried at the different restaurants. But in order to really become like big food players, they still have a long way to go.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah.
So there is a group of very young impact entrepreneurs, or who is dreaming of becoming an impact entrepreneur. So for those who is fresh out of school with a clear like a blueprint for their career, or have an excellent idea about a product, but those people, the problem is that they're only with a business background without any scientific or technological background. So for them, how to find a scientific and technological support for their entrepreneurial projects that requires like a basic professional knowledge on technology or manufacturing or stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't usually encourage like young graduates to start pursuing their own ventures from day one. I'm pretty sure there are always exceptions, right? But for most of the young graduates, especially young college graduates, as far as I'm concerned, I always encourage them to start working for other people first. Gain a kind of experience and skill set they need to have before they start their own ventures. And so, but if there's a right opportunities that they want to take advantage of, also try that. Also don't try to explore that as well. So, but for most of the young graduates, I would say that if they still want to become entrepreneurs, say after several years, working for other people, they can always do that. So preferably, I would say, especially for a young graduate who wants to pursue their own impact venture at some point, I think it's very important to gain some business experience first. By working with other people, either at multinational companies or Chinese private sector companies, and do that first. And after that, if as long as your impact gene is there, I'm pretty sure that you can always find opportunity to strike out on their own. But at the same time, if there's we don't rule out some of the young graduates who may be encountering a good opportunity that they want to take advantage of immediately. If that is the case, try that. But if you fail, don't get frustrated just because you're still very much young. And actually, if you fail quickly. So that's my advice. So and that way you can get up more quickly and start up something new. But whatever you do, working for someone else or working on your own for yourself, don't get easily frustrated, because there definitely will be frustration, right? So along the way, you just have that's part of what entrepreneurs have to go through. Actually, what everybody has to go through in life. But the key thing is that I always encourage young graduates to start working for someone else first. But the key thing to remember is that always remember, right? You 初心, right? So what do you really want to do? What do you have a passion for doing? I think that's the key. Just follow whatever your passion, or follow your heart. I think that's still key. But at the same time, be realistic to the extent that you need to understand your limits, especially as young graduates. So definitely be optimistic long term, but be realistic short term. That's my advice.
That's very valuable advice. So you went back to China to start Dao Venture and Dao Foods, though they're like more of an international business. But prior to that, you worked overseas. Were there any difficulties or hard times during the transition of the kind of different business environments, and how did you overcome?
You mean like reversed culture shock kind of thing?
Yeah, like, is there any difference like between Chinese entrepreneurial, like process or business environment comparing to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
US?
yeah. Definitely, there's difference, especially actually, if you go back like 10 years, 15 years, the difference was even bigger, right? So I think nowadays China has become much better in the sense that it's especially the younger generation people, they speak better English, and they can more easily communicate with people from the international side. But the difference is still there, a culture difference, difference in terms of how business is being conducted in China. Some of the differences will always be there for sure, right? So, but I think for Chinese students who choose to study abroad, eventually they have a competitive advantage, as far as I can tell, because they just need to spend more time on the ground to familiarize themselves with the way business is being done in China. And but they can always have the international perspective and experience that compared with their counterparts who never gone abroad before, who never been educated outside China before. So I think but at the same time, I just think for Chinese students who studied abroad and they go back to China, have realistic expectations, because the time when Liu Xuesheng, right? So we're highly priced is gone, right? But the important thing, I think, when you are abroad, try not just like mingle with Chinese students. Actually, try to take advantage of time to learn from foreign students, right? The international students or U.S. students. Spend more time with this foreigners, international people is probably more advantageous longer term for Chinese students studying abroad. Otherwise, don't try to create a Chinese community immediately, right? So after or Chinese circle immediately after you go out of China, it could be a waste of time and money.
Okay. So I want to bring up a few interesting words that I came across in a television, which is
sure.
Cultivate modern people with a Chinese soul, a global perspective. So in Chinese, so it is originally written in Chinese. It's 培养有中国灵魂、有世界眼光的现代人. So personally, I do like the meaning a lot. So how do you understand this sentence? Yeah.
Yeah, I think having a Chinese soul or Chinese gene is very important, right? So like I said, I'm pretty much saying the same thing, but maybe using different words. So I always say I'm a internationally experienced person with a Chinese head, right? So with a Chinese brain. So it's always there. The Chinese gene is always there. That will never be able to change. So and you just how much you need to adapt yourself and cross-border, right? Because I'm doing a lot of cross-border communications and business, dealing with stakeholders in China and outside China in different countries all at the same time. So I'm always been thinking about how I can help break the stakeholders in China with stakeholders I'm dealing with internationally. But in order to do that, I need to have the Chinese gene, right? So the Chinese soul, in order to better understand my Chinese stakeholders, because I cannot just say or think that because they are saying something that's totally different from what my international stakeholders are saying, that means they are wrong or either side is wrong, right? So I think they come from different angles, from different places. So so there's no right or wrong, in most of the situations that, initially actually, it could be, when I was trying to do the bridging, I tend to either, side with the Chinese stakeholders or international stakeholders. But over the years, I'm started to realize that it's much more complicated than that. So you have to stand in the shoes of Chinese stakeholders, and also at the same time stand in the shoes of the international stakeholders, as long as they are both reasonable people, and try to figure out, whether, they actually on the same page or not. Most of the time, actually, they're probably just talking about the same thing in different languages, from different angles, as far as I can tell. But at the end of the day, from a business perspective, you always want to balance, right? So help balance, the different stakeholders you work with, try to create a win-win situation. And that requires a lot of communication, a lot of, understanding or empathy, as far as I can tell. And that kind of empathy and understanding can only be built based on real international experience. Like the Chinese students studying abroad needs to try to learn. This is something I think you need to, the Chinese students studying abroad, 留学生 needs to have very consciously need to try to learn and master. It's going to take time, but you have that kind of consciousness of this kind of skill set that you need to master in order to do that kind of bridging job better. You will get there more quickly than other people, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I think this perspective is very inspiring for both Chinese students overseas and those students who grew up in a traditional Chinese backgrounds. So for those, so for those Chinese students overseas, maybe it is more important to keep them with a Chinese soul, and for those students who are in a Chinese traditional educational backgrounds, maybe it is more worth attention to figure a way how to gain their global perspectives. So
exactly.
So we are unfortunately running out of time. So though I have other questions, but thank you so much for doing this interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me.